Hartzell Propeller leads the industry in composite blade technology. Our composite blades are lightweight, durable, and engineered for cutting-edge performance. Unlike aluminum or wooden blades, they can be restored to their new dimensions over and over again. They're surprisingly easy to repair. This video demonstrates repairs made to a carbon composite blade, specifically on damage to the trailing edge foam region of the blade. For purposes of demonstration, the blade shown in this video is the Hartzell N7605C. Before you begin your repair, you can find your specific blade model on a sticker on the cylinder of the propeller. For some earlier composites, that sticker will be on the blade. If the blade model isn't obviously identifiable, just check for it on the inspection sheet that came with your prop. Your specific blade model will be identified by the characters after the slash. Hartzell Technical Representative Kevin Ryan has taught countless classes around the globe about the intricacies of composite propeller repair. Today, he'll teach you.
Hi. Before we get started, let's look at some of the tools and materials you're going to need to perform a repair on a carbon blade. You'll need the carbon fiber repair material, a coin tapper, a sanding block and sandpaper, some vacuum bag material, a piece of 20,000 safety wire, a steel rule, a marker, some clean lint-free rags. In this case, we're using cheesecloth. Please do not use these commercially available shop rags. They are oily and they can damage your repair. The adhesive, a tape measure, a scissors, a supply of acid brushes, a rotary tool or die grinder, some solvent. In this case, we're using denatured alcohol. You can also use MEK or acetone. Some spreader plates, thin, flexible spreader plates. Some of these are masonite. A roll of tape, the appropriate colors of touch-up paint, a DA sander, and a dust mask, and a pair of safety glasses.
Before beginning any repair, you'll need to reference the Hartzell Composite Propeller Blade Field Maintenance and Minor Repair Manual. It's more simply identified as Hartzell Manual 170. You'll find Manual 170 on our website. Just type in hartzellprop.com/Manual 170 and the PDF document will download to your computer. Once Manual 170 is open, first click on the chapter entitled Inspection Procedures in the left margin. Under the list of figures, find the link that identifies your prop. In this case, since we have an N7605C blade, we know it's listed as an N-shank blade. Click on Figure 1-3. Here you'll see a graphic of your blade. In order to properly assess this particular damage and determine whether your prop is within the airworthy limits of repair, we need to determine whether the damage is on the trailing edge foam region of the blade. You'll see that distance Y is the distance from the tip of the blade to the end of the trailing edge foam region. You can see by the chart that for the blade we're working on, the N7605C blade, that difference is 24 inches. Now let's take a look at the blade.
We'll measure from the tip to the outboard edge of the damage, and we can see that that damage is approximately 16 3/4 inches from the tip, which puts us squarely in the trailing edge foam region. So we'll need to assess that damage and repair procedure in the chart.
When you return to the manual, navigate to the chapter called Damage Evaluation. When you click on that title in the left margin, you'll see a list come up of nearly 36 kinds of repair. Our type of damage is a crushed or cracked trailing edge foam region. In this case, number 32 on the list. Click on the link and you'll see this chart. Locate the model N7605C on the vertical grid and follow it down to the horizontal grid for line 32. You'll see the X where line 32 intersects with the 7605C blade is line 32, limits 2. Now click on Repair Limits in the left navigation. Scroll down to line 32, limits 2. You'll end up at this table. That'll tell you whether your damage falls within the airworthy limits of the prop. You'll see on this table that the airworthy damage limits for this kind of damage is a 1/4 inch depth and 2 inches in length. The maximum permitted depth of a crushed or cracked area is 3/8 of an inch. The maximum permitted length of a crushed or cracked area of material is 2 inches, and the manual directs you to the repair details in section 4D. You can find 4D in the minor repairs navigation on the left, and you'll find the same instructions for the repair there that we will explain in this video. One thing to note here is that the airworthy damage limits are a 1/4 inch depth and 2 inches in length, but we can repair up to 3/8 of an inch in depth and 2 inches in length. So in this case, the airworthy damage limits are less than the minor repair specs. Now, if your damage exceeds these dimensions, you'll need to see a propeller shop or contact us here at Hartzell.
So the first thing we're going to want to do is to remove this paint to determine the extent of the damage. What I have here is a sanding block with some 80 grit sandpaper on it. You can use a little lighter sandpaper if you'd like to, especially if it's your first time. But I'm just going to take this sanding block and I'm going to sand this paint off so I can further assess the damage.
You may notice throughout this video that other parts of the propeller blade will be shown in various stages of repair, like this and this. That's because this video was taken over a period of time when we were also creating videos for other blade repairs on 2 other sections of the blade. Of course, none of this affects the repair that we're focusing on here. It's just a simple note for your reference as we continue through the repair process.
When you're sanding, resist the temptation to wipe away the dust with your hand. On the carbon blades especially, the carbon blades tend to splinter a little bit in the damaged area, and you'll end up with a carbon splinter in your thumb or your hand or whatever, and it's very painful. And in spite of knowing exactly not to do it, I do it almost every time I work on one of these blades.
At this stage of the repair, you'll need to determine whether the damage is within the repairable and airworthy limits of the blade. First, measure the damaged area. In this case, our damaged area is just over a 1/2 inch in length and a little under a 1/4 inch in depth. You'll recall from the table that the airworthy damage limits for this kind of damage is 2 inches in length and a 1/4 inch depth. So that means your repair is within both repair limits and airworthy limits. Again, if the damage exceeds those limits, you'll need to seek professional help.
On this repair, I'm going to remove this damaged material, and then I'm going to bevel out from the damage about a 1/2 inch surrounding it. To perform this repair, I'm going to put a piece of vacuum bag material over the damage, and I'm going to use this vacuum bag material as a template to cut out my repair pieces. First, I'm going to mark the area, the damaged area where I removed the material. And then I'm going to mark the area that I beveled out around. I'll use this as a template to cut out my repair materials. You want to remember to cut out your repair materials prior to mixing the adhesive. The adhesive has a fairly short pot life, about an hour, so you need to cut out your repair materials prior to mixing the adhesive so it gives you the maximum amount of time to do your repairs. This is the template for my trailing edge foam repair, and this is the carbon repair material. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this piece on here and I'm going to cut the larger template size out of the carbon. Then referring to the weave in the fabric, I'm going to turn it and cut my next piece out at about a 45-degree angle relative to the one I cut out originally.
Manual 170 contains suggestions for the type of adhesive you'll need to continue your repair. Typically, the adhesive is created by mixing two separate components by weight. In this case, we mix 100 parts of Part A to 33 parts of Part B. While you may buy quart kits like we use at Hartzell, it'll likely contain more than you'll need for your small repair. That's why you can also buy more economical, smaller portions from Hartzell, like a 50-gram pudding cup. In these packs, the parts are already pre-measured. You simply mix one into the other. Or there are easy packs, which feature two components divided by a plastic separator. When you pull out the separator, the materials mix in the bag.
Before you apply the adhesive or the repair materials, use your alcohol to wipe the repair area off. Make sure that all the sanding dust and so on, maybe oil from your hands, has been removed. Before you apply the adhesive, make sure that all the solvent is evaporated. And then apply your adhesive. Now I'm going to apply the adhesive not only to the repair area, but the area adjacent to the repair. And because this repair is on both sides of the blade, I'm going to apply adhesive to the face side of the blade as well. I'm going to apply my first repair piece on the face side of the blade. You could apply it on the camber side of the blade as well. And I'm going to make sure that piece is fully saturated with adhesive. And I'm going to add my second repair piece. And I'm going to saturate that piece. Or at least the piece that's on the face side of the blade. Now this carbon material is fairly stiff. What we want to do is we want to take this repair and fold it over to the camber side of the blade. And that can be somewhat difficult to do. The material doesn't want to bend very well. What works for me is I'll take a piece of vacuum bag material, which we're going to end up covering the repair with anyway, and just using it to help you bend the part over. Once it's bent over, it may want to pop back up again. I'm just going to take off the piece of vacuum bag temporarily. Well, that's really not. You can see, sometimes this just doesn't want to cooperate. Even Julia Child had a souffle collapse every now and again. Peel that off. And I'm going to cover that with another piece of carbon fiber. Now this piece of carbon fiber here is just a sacrificial layer. Let's see if I can get that guy to lay back down. I'm just going to cover that whole repair up. And all this will do is serve to be a sacrificial layer when we do our sanding. It will, most of that material will just sand off. You don't even have to worry about adding too much adhesive to it. Because I had that trouble a little earlier, I'm going to add a little bit more just to be on the safe side. Put some here on the back as well. I'll cover that up with the vacuum bag material, and then I'll cover it up with 2 semi-rigid plates. Here again, I've got, these are auto body filler spreaders, and I've got them taped together so they'll hold their repair materials in. Sometimes when you go to clamp them, the spreader plates will move one direction or the other, and it can damage your repair. So I have this piece of tape over the top of them to keep everything flat. We'll clamp down the spreader plates. And allow the adhesive to cure. All right, now our adhesive is cured. The adhesive at room temperature takes 12 hours to cure. So we're going to remove the clamps and the spreader plates and see how our repairs came out. Looks just fine. We're going to sand off this trailing edge foam region repair that we've done. You can see that I have quite a bit of adhesive that's well outside the repair area, and then there's this top piece or sacrificial piece of carbon that I put on. Most of that will end up being sanded off in the course of the sanding. I'm going to use 150 grit sandpaper. You can use lighter sandpaper if you'd like. This carbon material tends to sand out very nicely. In fact, sometimes it'll sand out rapidly. So I would advise you to start out with at least 150, maybe lighter, maybe a lighter grade sandpaper till you start getting a little bit more used to it, and then you can go to a lighter grade. But 150 grades good. 150 grit's a good place to start. I'm going to use a sander to remove this material, and as I get closer to the finish, I'll stop and I'll hand sand out the rest. While you're sanding away the repair, I'm getting down near the end here, and I'm going to do some hand sanding. You may notice that right there, there's a small void. This is just caused by an air bubble in the adhesive. And normally these will just sand right out. They will show up in your paint. So you want to make sure you can remove that. And they're generally not particularly difficult to remove. They're difficult to see when you're just sanding because the dust will fill the void up and they're difficult to see. So you want to use your tack cloth and just keep do a little local sanding right in that area until you're able to remove it.
Now, using a coin, or in this case a heavy washer, we can determine how soundly this blade has been repaired. This video from a similar repair on the tip of the blade shows how you can tap around the previously damaged area. If your repair is sound, you'll hear no audible difference in the surface that you're tapping, and you can continue with the repair.
The area, rough up the paint surface. Notice also that I've masked off all the areas I don't want to paint. The leading edge, my tip stripes, and the de-ice boot, anti-ice boot, or if neither an anti-ice boot or a de-ice boot are installed, there'll be a piece of erosion tape there, and that needs to be masked as well. So I've masked all this off, I've masked off the hub, so I'm just going to scuff up the paint and then paint it. I'm going to use 400 grit sandpaper and just lightly then I'll tack off the dust with my lint-free cloth and the alcohol. I'm going to spray the entire blade using the black touch-up paint. This is a product that is canned up for Hartzell. There's also a commercially available spray paint that you can purchase on the internet. You can also use the regular specified epoxy paint that we use in production or is used in an overhaul shop. You wouldn't necessarily have to use this touch-up paint. So, once again, we're going to start out spraying slowly, carefully, avoiding runs, and it's going to take more than one coat. A few more coats, this will look good as new. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it's done something to dispel some of the fears you may have had about working on composite bladed propellers. As you can see, the repairs aren't particularly difficult, and with a little bit of practice, you can perform them in your shop. And if you happen to run into trouble, you can always give us a call here at Hartzell or send us an email. Thanks again for watching.
For more information about Hartzell composite propeller repairs, we invite you to contact Hartzell Product Support. Call 800-942-7767 and then option number 3. Or visit us online at hartzellprop.com.